It was Halloween night, and the Miller family's house was full of excitement. Pumpkins glowed on the porch, costumes were everywhere, and the smell of cinnamon and chocolate floated from the kitchen. Little Ellie was a fairy with sparkling wings, her brother Max was a pirate with a crooked hat, and Mom and Dad had even dressed up like goofy ghosts with bedsheets over their heads. The living room was cozy, the fireplace crackled gently, and a tray of hot cocoa sat waiting for after trick-or-treating. But high above their little town, storm clouds began to gather. Thick, grey and heavy, they rolled in slowly like a blanket being pulled over the stars. Thunder rumbled in the distance, soft at first, then louder. As children laughed in the streets and parents snapped photos, few noticed how the wind had begun to whistle and the air smelled like rain. Back inside, on the windowsill, there sat a tiny pumpkin-shaped candle. No bigger than a teacup, it had a painted smile, a little orange stem, and a short white wick that had only been lit once before, last year, on the very same night. Ellie had insisted on placing it there. "So it can watch all the costumes and feel part of the fun," she said. It didn't flicker like the bigger candles or blink like the battery lights, but there was something sweet about it, like it wanted to shine. Just as Max reached for his candy bucket and Mom zipped up her coat, lightning cracked across the sky. Boom! The lights in the house blinked, then went out completely. The TV died, the kitchen went dark, even the jack-o'-lanterns outside flickered off. Everything was still. Then came the sound Ellie hated most in the world, the groan of the wind followed by the sudden howl of thunder. The house, usually full of music and voices, felt strange and silent. Ellie's wings trembled. Max looked out the window and frowned. "Whoa, it's like the storm's right above us." Mum moved quickly. "Okay, everyone, no need to panic. I'll find the flashlights." Dad opened the cupboard. "We've got extra blankets if it gets cold. Maybe even tell some stories while we wait for the power to come back, huh?" But Ellie didn't move. She sat on the floor near the candle, hugging her knees. "I don't like the dark," she whispered. That's when Mom found the matches. "I guess this little guy will have to help us out," she said, picking up the tiny pumpkin candle. She lit it with a careful flick, and a small soft flame danced to life. At first, the flame was no bigger than a firefly, but as Ellie watched, it seemed to grow. Not in size, but in glow. It didn't light the whole room, but it made a soft circle of golden warmth around them. Just enough to see each other's faces, just enough to feel less alone. They placed the candle on the table and gathered around it. Max still grumbled about missing trick-or-treating, but he sat down too. Mum passed out mugs of lukewarm cocoa. The wind roared outside, shaking the shutters, but inside the candle stood tall, its flame unwavering. "Tell a story," Ellie whispered. So Dad told one about a cat who stole candy and a witch who didn't mind. Mom added a part about a vampire who loved cookies instead of blood. Max rolled his eyes, but soon he was making up his own characters, a werewolf who couldn't howl and a ghost who was afraid of the dark. Ellie giggled. The candle glowed. Then they started talking about real things, like how Max had helped a kid at school who didn't have a costume, how Ellie gave her favourite sticker to a sad friend last week, how Mum used to be scared of the dark too, until her grandma taught her that even a tiny flame could keep the shadows away. Every time someone said something kind, the candle seemed to shine just a little brighter. They didn't notice it, not at first, but while the storm raged outside and the rain lashed at the windows, inside the house, their house, the light of one small candle grew into something more than light. It became warmth. It became comfort. The clock ticked on. Hours passed. Max fell asleep with a blanket over his shoulders. Mum dozed with her head on Dad's arm. Ellie sat closest to the candle, her wings drooping gently, her eyes wide with wonder. "Thank you," she whispered to it. The flame didn't flicker. It glowed. In that soft orange light, the little pumpkin candle didn't feel small anymore. It felt like a protector, like it had a purpose. It didn't have to be the brightest or the biggest. It just had to stay, and it did. All the way until morning. When sunlight peeked through the storm clouds and poured into the living room, the candle's flame gave one tiny flicker, then went out. But it didn't feel like an ending. It felt like a promise. That night, Ellie carefully placed the candle back on the windowsill. "You were the bravest one of all," she told it, patting its side. The candle didn't reply, but the warmth in Ellie's chest told her everything she needed to know.